This is the Sarasota Technology User Group for November 2nd, 2022. I'm Huey Poplock. I'm your lead-in person to give you some updates and information on STUG, and then we'll have our presentation, which is tonight, Backups in a Busy World by Mark Schulman. First, some announcements. At the end of the meeting, we'll have a drawing for a one-year membership renewal. In order to be a renewal, you have to be a member. So this is a membership only contest or drawing. And I didn't change the date on the bottom of it, but it is for November. And we will draw somebody at the end. If you're online, you will get a one-year membership. And if you're not a member and would like to join, and I know we have several out-of-towners now that have joined STUG, a one-year membership is $30. And you can sign up online. We have classes and forums. Classes are limited to current STUG members only unless otherwise noted. We have a special interest group for Windows on the second Sunday of every month. We've combined with the Central Florida Computer Society Windows SIG, and we have it at the same time. The next one will be a week from Sunday, November 13th. And you can sign up for the Windows SIG newsletter at huey.net. Tech tips and discussion with Huey. I am going to have a tech tips and discussion. This will be a STUG monthly event with each month's date and time announced for each meeting. So it's going to be at different times so we can experiment a little bit. And so different people can join us. The hour-long meeting will include 2 or 3 10-minute, 3 to 10-minute videos about technology, and then discussions will follow each one. The videos mostly will be from YouTube by me, Ron Brown, Bob G, Geeks on Tour, and other YouTube video makers. The forum will be for STUG members only and will not be recorded for playback later. The first session will be on the third Tuesday, November 15th at 2:30 p.m. Contact me and I will give you the link for that meeting. The STUG Help Desk is also scheduled for this month on the next day, on November 16th, from 4 to 5:15. And you can sign up using the link, and Jim Cerny is the leader of that. Don't forget, we're having a holiday party, a live in-person party only. There will be no Zoom on December 15th from 3 to 4:30. There's information in the Monitor newsletter. There's information going out with the members only messages that if you're in the area or would like, some of you I know are in Florida, but maybe not right in the Sarasota Manatee area, but would like to join us, by all means, you're welcome to do that. Registration is required. You have to do it on Eventbrite, and it's only for members, so it's only in the members only notices. The Tech for Seniors is every Monday from 11:30 to 1:15. Tech for Seniors Live is Thursdays, and Learning Chromebooks is the 4th Thursday of the month. However, there will not be one in November because it falls on Thanksgiving Day. Don't forget the STUG website, the STUG newsletter, the STUG YouTube channel, and our Facebook page. There's also a STUGgroups.io. And you can ask questions and get answers. There's not a lot of use of it, so please try to use it, and we get answers back to you. And then also the STUG Friday trending email is the one I was trying to think of the name earlier. It's sent to all current members every Friday, and that should give you all the information for any of the forums or special meetings that we have throughout the month. And also don't forget, if you go to our website, thestug.org. There's a Google Calendar icon. Click on it and you will get the calendar for the month. Here's our board of directors for 2022. And with that, I will turn this over to Jim Cerny. And hopefully Mark has joined us. And Jim, you'll be able to introduce him.
Yes, Mark's joined us, Huey.
Okay. Thank you. Just a couple more things of added bonus information. For the help desk on that Wednesday, that is a non-registration event. You don't have to register, you just click on the link. Well, how do you get the link? Well, I send out an email to all members the Monday before the Wednesday of the meeting, and the link is in that email. So it's for members only, but we certainly don't mind. If you have a guest, you're welcome to give the link to somebody else, and they're welcome to sample a help desk with our STUG organization to see if they would like to join. The other thing is the party. I want to emphasize that it's our first actual in-person meeting since COVID decimated us. We've tried to have in-person meetings with our regular monthly meetings, but few people showed up, and we felt that a lot of people were doing Zoom to attend the meeting, but we wanted to give the in-person opportunity a try to socialize with the membership. So our holiday party, which is Thursday, December 15th from 3 to 4:30, it is at the Turtle Rock Community Center. All the information is in the monitor. I don't have to give you all that information, but you do need to register for every person. You are welcome to bring a guest, but the guest also must register, because I need to give a name of everybody attending to the guard. Otherwise, you will not get into the party. Okay, now I understand that our guest speaker, Mark, is available. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Let me introduce Mark Schulman to you. He has spent his career as a computer instructor and a software designer and a small business owner. So he's touched all kinds of aspects of dealing with technology. He's taught a wide range of programming courses for major corporations and worked on large software development projects. Currently, he works as the IT manager for a group of family practice physicians, as well as a small company that runs clinical drug trials. His major interest these days is in the community technology area, and he was very interested in the technology that made the moon landings back in the 1960s, which many of you probably are too young to remember, but I do. And without any further ado, Mark, we'd like to turn this over to you. Thank you for your help and giving us your presentation.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jim. Can you hear me okay? Very good. Okay. Well, thanks. I'm really glad to be here. I am a member of the Central Florida Computer Society, and I know there's a lot of linkages between your group and our group, so I'm really happy to be here tonight. Okay, let me see if the screen sharing is working. And hopefully you can see my screen. And hopefully you can see my title page here. If you can't, someone please let me know.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So we're going to talk about backups today. And Jim told you a little bit about myself. I've been an IT professional all of my career, about 40 years now, a little over 40 years. And one important point I wanted to make, I'm going to show you a lot of software tonight. I don't have an affiliation with any of these companies. I have no contact with these companies other than going to their websites and downloading their software, and in some cases sending them a little bit of money. So don't take any of this to be, this is all software that I like, that I use, but don't take this as me having any affiliation with these folks. So what I want to talk to you about tonight is, why do we need backups? And then some different ways that we might do it. And if you're not doing backups, hope to impress upon you why they're so important and show you some easy ways to do this. So the problem is this: all hard drives will eventually fail. And by hard drives, I mean not only the spinning drives that we've been using for decades, but also SSDs as well, the solid state drives. Everything will eventually fail. There's a backup company called Backblaze, and a while back, they have a huge number of hard drives because that's their business, is doing backups for people. They obviously have to store that data. And at the time they did this report, they had over 41,000 hard drives in their data center. And what they found, so what they did was they analyzed the data that they collected over a long period of time, over years, about how reliable these hard drives were that they were buying. And they were buying these hard drives from lots of different manufacturers. And what they found was that some models of hard drives had as high as a 26% annual failure rate, which is to say that certain models of hard drives, if you had 4 of these, then every year you could expect one of them to fail, just from a statistical standpoint. Well, that's awful. And I've got a link down here to that report. And by the way, I'll make these slides available. I'll send them to Jim or Bill after the presentation so you can get copies from them. So there's lots of different ways that you can wind up losing your data. One of them is your computer can fail. And computers can fail in a lot of different ways. I know you've seen presentations on that, and I'm sure many of you have experienced things that can happen. And the hard drives failing, of course, is one of the ways that computers can fail. You can accidentally delete files, and that's when backups can become very important. And that's probably happened to me more than actual hardware failures. It's just that I delete a directory, and then I realize later that that folder contained files that I actually still needed. And now I need to find some way to get them back. Your computer can be lost or stolen, especially if it's a laptop. And I'll tell you a story about that in a little bit later. Especially after Hurricane Ian came through, we found that natural disasters like fires or floods can wind up stealing all of our data. And malware is another thing. A lot of the malware, the original malware, was software that went through and would format your hard drive and you'd lose everything. These days, probably one of the biggest concerns is ransomware. And if you've never seen that, here's an example of what that might look like, where they say, send us $300 in Bitcoin or you'll never see your files again. And you wind up getting infected. They go through and encrypt all your files so that they're useless to you. And if you don't pay the money, you'll never see your files again. So all of these things, and by the way, if you don't want to pay these people, then the way you get out of this situation is just by putting a backup, restoring a backup, and getting your files off your backup, and then you're all set to go. Well, if you don't have a backup, you're not going to be able to do that, and your only hope may be to pay them the money. This screen is asking for $300 these days. That's actually pretty cheap. So imagine if you lost all your data and all of your documents, photos, videos, letters, spreadsheets, financial documents, all of that is gone. And I don't know about you, but I would really be heartbroken if I lost all of these things, especially things like photos, but even the financial documents and things like that would be just a nightmare to have to replace. And when I think about a real disaster like my house burning to the ground, assuming everybody got out safely, assuming me and my wife got out and we got our cat out, what would I really be sorry to lose? And the answer is I'd be sorry to lose the things that are on my computer. Everything else just about is replaceable. All of my photos are on my computer. Everything I really need, there's a couple knickknacks that I'd be sorry to lose, but it's really the stuff on my computer that I would really be heartbroken to lose. So if the worst happens and your computer catches fire or you have some sort of hardware failure, you might get lucky. It might be that the computer has failed, but the hard drive is still okay. And you can use a device such as this. I've got a couple of these, and they're devices where you can pull the hard drive out of your computer. You can take this to another computer, and you can mount your hard drive as if it were a USB external drive. And if the hard drive's still okay, you can get all your data out of it. So if it's just the computer and not the hard drive, this might save your life, or save your data anyway. I love these guys, and you can get them on Amazon for $10 or $15. They're really cheap. You might get sort of lucky, even if the drive has failed. Sometimes you can send the drive off to a data recovery service and they can manage to fish all the data off the drive, or at least most of it. It's very specialized work, very expensive. You can expect to pay thousands of dollars. But if you didn't have backups and that was the only way you could get your data back, it might be worth the money to you. But every once in a while, if your computer catches fire or your house, God forbid, catches fire, sometimes your luck just runs out and there's no way you're going to get that data back off that hard drive. So in that case, backups are the only thing you've got. So I hope I can convince you that this is the way to get out of that, recover from this disaster. So let's talk about backups. So what is a backup? Well, it's a copy of all your data. And because your data is constantly changing, it's not something you just do once and then you put away and forget it. It's something you have to do on an ongoing basis. And my experience is that most people don't do it. That when I talk to people and they say, I've deleted all my photos, can you help me? My first question is going to be, well, do you have a backup? And usually their answer is, well, no, I don't. And a lot of times there's just nothing that you can do in a situation like this. I saw this quote many, many years ago, and I really love this quote. If you don't make backups, you don't own your files, you're just borrowing them from fate. If you don't have backups, and if you're in the computer game long enough, if you're dealing with computers long enough, there's going to come a point where you're going to lose data if you don't have backups. So let's talk about what the ideal backup technique would look like. So maybe I've convinced you that we need to be making backups. So we'd like to find some method that's convenient, reliable, secure, and inexpensive. And I hope to be able to give you some ideas about this. Now, by the way, when I talk about backups, and I tend to deal with two different kinds of groups. So everybody in this group is what I think of as a consumer. So backups have to be really convenient, because if they're not convenient, we're not going to do them. We tend to be lazy. Nobody's forcing us to do backups. So if it's not easy to do backups, we won't do them. Now, on the other hand, at work, we have people that's part of their job to do the backups. And so we can come up with backup schemes that are less convenient because it's somebody's job. They have to do it. They're being paid to do it. And just because it's not fun or it's not easy doesn't get them out. That's not an excuse for not doing it. It's their job. So the way you deal with companies is very different from the way you deal with people. With people, it has to be convenient or they won't do it. So a rule of thumb, when you're designing a technique for making backups, it has to abide by what I call the 3-2-1 rule. If you're really going to be secure and know that your data will be there when you need it, there should be 3 copies of your data. That is to say, you should never just have 1 copy. The thing about backups is that when you turn to a backup because you've lost data, your backup is usually your last hope. So you really need to make sure that your data is going to be there when you need it. And the way you do that is by making sure you've got lots of copies of your data. It needs to be on different media. So what we found a lot of times is that when we talk about backups, if you tell me, well, I make all my backups to DVDs, or I make them all to flash drives, and I bought 3 flash drives, so I've got 3 copies of it, and I back everything up to those flash drives. And then you find out that those flash drives are not reliable. And when you need the data, you find out that none of them work. So you should not only have multiple copies of your data, but it shouldn't all be on the same type of media. So 2 different kinds of media, and at least one of them should be offsite. And here's the thing I worry about. What I mentioned before is, if my house burns to the ground, I don't want to have to worry that, oops, there went all my backups as well. Sorry, my phone is talking to me. So I need to know that if my house burns to the ground, or at work, if the office burns down, or if it floods or something like that, I don't want to have to worry that, oops, there went my backups as well. So at least one copy of your backup should always be somewhere else. So let's talk about a couple convenient strategies that we can do that meet these criteria. So strategy number one, you can copy all your data on regular intervals to a flash drive, an external hard drive, or a network storage device. If you know what a network storage device is, great. If not, it's okay. So with this technique, we make sure that all of our important files are copied to a flash drive or an external hard drive. And it's easiest to do this if you use a special kind of software known as synchronization software. And there's lots of them out there, but I'll show you a couple that I really like. So what synchronization software does is, instead of copying all of your data every time you do a backup, it just looks for files that are either new or that have changed since the last time you do a backup. It did a backup. And it can do this really quickly. And it only copies files that are new or different. And some of the ones that I use, one that I'm going to demonstrate for you here in a minute, is called Free File Sync. There's another one called Good Sync, which I use at home. And then there's one called Sync Back, which is actually what we use at work to do our backups. So in the office where I work, that's our preferred software. All of these have a free version. They also have, except for the first one, they all have paid versions as well. So let me show you what that might look like. So let me do a quick demo. So I've got an external hard drive plugged into my computer, and it's my G drive. And right now, it's got a few folders on it, but I'm going to create my backup on this external hard drive as well. So I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm just going to call it backup. Now, the files I want to back up are over here on my E drive. I've got a second partition, and that's my E drive. And they are in a folder here called demo. And if I look in demo, there's a couple of documents in there, and I've got folders called important papers, projects, study, and technology. And that's the stuff that I want to make sure I don't lose. So I'm going to run this program if I can find it. Where is it? Oh, there it is. It's over here. So I use a program called Free File Sync. And as the name suggests, it's free. They'll take donations, and I give them donations because I really love their software. So on the left-hand side, I put in the folder that I want to back up. So I want to back up E demo, and I could browse for it, but it's easy to type. And on the right-hand side, I put where I want to back it up. So I want to back it up in G backup. Now I've got some options here. And I'm going to tell it I want to do what's called a mirror. So what it's going to do, and it gives you some icons which you can learn, and it tells you what it's going to do. But essentially what that means is it's going to make sure that whatever is in E demo in that folder is going to be duplicated over into, on my G drive, into the backup directory. So what I'm going to do, and I can't see all of this on my screen, so I'm going to minimize it a little bit. Resize it. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to click, now that I've got those directories in there, those folders, I'm going to click compare, and it looks through both of those folders, and it says, here's what you've got to do in order that the G backup folder is an exact duplicate of the demo folder. And essentially, this first time, it's going to have to copy all of my files. So you see, it's got all these little green arrows that have plus signs next to them. And if I look down here, it says there's 136 files that it's going to have to copy, because right now the backup directory is empty. So I'm going to say, okay, go ahead and do that. And I sit back, and it do it that quick. Wow, that was fast. They're not very big files. Normally that'll take a while, but it looks like it did it really quickly. Okay, so if I go look at my external hard drive now and look in my backup directory, I can see that it is now a complete duplicate of exactly what was in the demo directory over there. Now let's say something changes. So I'm going to go into my demo folder, and let's say I change some things. So I'm going to pull up this weekly rolling cash flow spreadsheet. And I'm just going to change a number here. And I'll save that. And then I'm going to go into my taxes, and I'm going to say, you know what, I don't need my 2013 taxes anymore. I'm going to delete that folder. And then I'm going to go into the study directory here and pull up this Word document and make some changes to it. And I'm just going to delete this section right here and save that. Okay, so then the next day I come back, let's say it's the next day, and I want to do another backup, or I want to update my backup, and I hit compare, and look what it says this time. It says I don't need to copy all 136 files. The only thing I need to do is update this spreadsheet, and then I need to delete this folder with its document, and then I need to update this Word document. And if I do that, then you'll be completely up to date. So I type synchronize and start, and just really quickly it goes lickety split, because all it has to do is just make those 4 changes. So it can tell what's changed in my hard drive, and it can make the external hard drive look identical. So that's free file sync. Now, let me show you one other thing that it can do that I really love. It can keep versions, and all of these can. So I'm going to say, I'm going to click on I went back to the settings, and I clicked on versioning, and I'm going to tell it I want it to keep the naming convention, and I'll show you what this means in just a second. I want it to keep timestamp file, and I want it to keep the versions in, and I'm going to have to create a new directory to do this. On the G drive, I'm going to create a folder called versions. And I'm going to save that. Now watch what it's going to do. I'm going to make a few more changes. So I'm going to go into demo directory. I'm just making this up as I go. And I'm going to pull up Northwest Traders Business Plan. Oops, it's got a password on it. I'm not going to use that. Let's see. I'm going to go into projects and batch files. And I'm going to, no, I don't want to do that either. I'm going to edit this license file. I don't know why I'm going to edit it. I just am. And I'm just going to delete some lines here. Actually, I'm going to delete everything from here on down. So I've pretty much wiped out the whole file. Now, I've done this sort of thing by accident, where I've pulled up a Word document and I meant to just delete 1 or 2 paragraphs, and I wind up deleting a huge section of the Word document. So this is actually very realistic. And I'm going to save this. And now I'm going to do a backup. And it says the only thing that's changed is just that one file. So I'm going to say, okay, back it up. And then I realize, let's say, I pull that file up and I edit it, and oh my gosh, I deleted almost all the file. Well, that's okay. I've got a backup. So I'm going to go to my external hard drive, and I'm going to go into backup and projects and screen ruler. And there's the copy of it right there. And I'll pull that up, and that should have my stuff in it. Oops. I backed up the bad file. So now my original file has all that section deleted, and the backup has that section deleted. What do I do now? Well, I can go over to versions and look, there's a project directory, screen ruler directory, and it says there's license.txt as it existed before you did the last backup. And if I pull that up, there it is with all the data in it before I did the deletion. So if you tell Free File Sync to keep versions, then every time you change a file and it makes a copy of the file onto your backup, it also keeps a copy of the original file before you changed it. So I really like this. This has saved my bacon a lot of times when I've changed a file, made a mistake, and then I wind up backing it up. Free File Sync will keep a copy of it before you made the change. And it'll do that as many times as you ask it to. So I can tell it anytime I change any file, I want you to keep copies of it so I can always go back and get it the way it was before I changed it. So this is really, really useful. So I didn't mean for that to be a tutorial on how to do it, but I wanted you to see what you could do, that these synchronization programs make it really easy to copy stuff onto external hard drives or flash drives, and they all have versioning so you can keep copies of the data as it was before you changed it. So I really love this. Okay. You can also find specialized backup software. One of the ones that we use at work is called Aomi Backupper, and it's free. And there's lots and lots of other backup programs where all you have to do is just run them, whatever you decide, once a day, once a week, whatever, and they'll create backups for you. And they'll all do versioning, just like you saw a minute ago. So they're a little bit different from synchronization software because they tend to put the files on your external hard drive in a proprietary format. So you have to have the software to be able to look at those files. But that's why I don't like them as well. I like the synchronization software, but backup software is definitely a decent option. So a few points. You want to have at least 2 different hard drives and alternate between them. So that if one hard drive goes bad, you've hopefully got another hard drive that isn't bad. At work, we use 5 hard drives. So we have 5 hard drives, each of which is 4 terabytes. And every day we rotate between them. So we've always got, if I did a backup today, I've also got a backup from yesterday and the day before and the day before that and the day before that. So if one hard drive goes bad, I might lose one day's work, but I can get all the data before that. If you can, store the external hard drives as physically apart from your computer as possible. So I talked before about your house burning to the ground and you lose all your hard drives. Well, the fact is, what's much more common is not that houses burn to the ground, but that a fire starts in a house and you lose part of the house. So if you have, let's say your study where the computer is at one end of the house, and then your kitchen is in the other end of the house, well, maybe find a cabinet in the kitchen or in the pantry where you can store your hard drives when you do your backups. So that way, if the den catches fire and you lose your computer, hopefully the backups are far enough away in the house that you don't lose them as well. You should always enable versioning in whatever software you're using, like I just did in Free File Sync. And backups are important, and you should schedule them just like you'd schedule anything that's important in your life. I've got a piece of software on my computer that every Sunday it pops up a little reminder on my computer that it's time to do my backups so that I don't forget to do my backups every Sunday. So a hard drive that I like, I have used Western Digital Elements, portable external hard drives. That's what I do my backups on. I really like them. They look like this here. I checked the prices on Amazon about a month ago. A 2 terabyte hard drive was about $62. A 4 terabyte hard drive was $95. So you get yourself 3 or 4 of these and you're good to go. So it's a little bit of an investment up front, but it should hold you for a lot of years. Another thing you can get is what's called a network attached storage. If you've got lots of computers, maybe you've got a family and lots of people have different computers and you want something you can back them all up to, a NAS, network attached storage, is something you can put on your network and everybody can do their backups to it. It's an excellent solution, but they can be pretty pricey. A good one you can pay $600, $700, $1,000 without trying very hard for a really good one. So an advantage to doing backups onto external hard drive, it's fast, it's easy. You saw how fast I managed to do it with free file sync. The only problem is you wind up with hard drives that are in your house and they can be susceptible to flood or fire or some other natural disaster. And you have to remember to do the backups every day, every couple of days, every week, however often you decide to do them. So another strategy is to use online storage. For example, use Google Drive, OneDrive, Dropbox, or pCloud. There's other services as well, and store your important documents in one of these services. And that way it's not only on your computer, but it's in the cloud as well. You can get a lot of storage from these services. If you want this much storage, it's not free, but Google Drive, Dropbox, and pCloud will allow you to buy up to 2 terabytes of storage. OneDrive, the maximum you can get is 1 terabyte. And here are the prices for them as of about 2 months ago. I'm sure they're all still the same. You can see Dropbox is the most expensive. OneDrive is the cheapest, although you don't get as much storage. So this would certainly be enough storage to hold most people's files, unless you're doing a lot of shooting a lot of video. However, one really important point I want to make about these online services: do not depend on them as your only backup. All of these services, in their terms of service, and of course, if you use one of these services, you've read their terms of service, right? They all warn you that they do not guarantee that they won't lose your files. So don't count on any of these services to be the only place you're keeping your backups. Finally, a third strategy is to use an online backup service. And I don't happen to have one of these right now, but I have in the past, and they're fantastic. So what an online backup service does is you install their software on your PC, and it watches for you to update files on your PC. And as soon as you update files, delete them, update them, add new files, they copy the files up to the internet, to their servers, and all your data is encrypted. And these are great because you install them, you don't have to do anything else. You just use your computer as normal, and they will make sure that all of your files are copied up to their service. You can get online backup services for free if you don't have much to back up. Typically anywhere from 2 gigabytes to 15 gigabytes, which these days is not very much. And they'll give you that much storage for free. And of course, they're hoping that you'll realize that that's not very much storage and you'll pay. They all provide paid services, and they allow you to back up all of your files. And in some cases, they'll allow you to back up multiple computers. So here are the 4 big online backup services: iDrive, Backblaze, CrashPlan, and Carbonite. iDrive is unique in that they will allow you to back up as many computers as you have, but they won't back up more than 5 terabytes total. Well, that's a lot of storage. So if you've got a computer, your wife's got a computer, your husband's got a computer, your kids have got 1 or 2 computers, 5 terabytes is probably enough, and you can back them all up for $60 a year. The other plans allow you to back up 1 computer, but they'll back it up no matter how much storage it has. So you can back up 20 terabytes of data if that's what you've got. And if you have multiple computers, then you just have to pay this amount multiple times. So if you had 2 computers, you wanted to back them up with Backblaze, it would be $140. I really love Crash Plan. I've used them before, but you can see they're by far the more expensive of all of these plans. So these days, if I were to pick one right now, I'd probably go with somebody other than Crash Plan. So the advantages, very easy. You sign up with them, you give them a credit card so they can set up your account and charge you. You install their software, you tell their software what directories or what folders you want to back up, and then you're done. And they will take care of it. Disadvantages, there's an ongoing cost, the annual cost you saw on the previous slide. The first backup they do can take days, because if you've got a terabyte of files, which I easily would, it's going to take them days and days to get all that uploaded to begin with. From that point on, though, they'll only back up files when they change, and that's never very much for most people. Also, if you have to restore your files, let's say your computer dies and you have to buy a new computer, and now you want to get your data back and put it on your new computer, it can take a couple of days to download all that data. So, and they'll do that for you. Some of these services will also mail you a hard drive. So if your computer dies, you have to buy a new one, you can request them to send you a hard drive. They'll overnight you a copy of your data on a hard drive. So that's really nice. System backups. So I don't back up Windows on a regular basis. My philosophy is that if my computer burned to the ground and I had to set everything up from scratch, I can reinstall Windows. I don't really have to worry about that. It's my data I care about. I don't care about losing Windows. I care about losing all my photos. So I don't worry too much about backing up Windows, but there's lots of software that'll do that for you. So maybe every 3 or 4 months you back up Windows. This can take a lot of hard drive space on your external hard drive, but you can make a copy of Windows onto your external hard drive, so that if your hard drive fails, you have to get a new computer, you have to get a new hard drive, whatever, these programs will put it back the way it was. Two that I like, Aomi Backupper will do that, and it's free. And the other one is Macrium Reflect. I really like that one, and it also will do that for free. I don't want to run out of time, so I'm not going to demo this. The last thing I want to talk about is phones, and in particular, photos on your phones. About a year ago, I had a coworker come to me, and she said, my phone got destroyed. I don't really remember what happened to it, whether she dropped it or what happened, but she lost her phone, and she had tons of photos on that phone, including all the photos she had taken at her daughter's wedding. And she was just devastated. And to me, this is kind of a no-brainer, that photos should not exist only on your phone, because of all the things that you keep photos on, your phone is the easiest one to lose. So let's talk about that for a second. Photos should never exist only on your phone. Should have them backed up somewhere. And do we really have to explain this? I've lost phones. I've lost them. I've had them destroyed, where I've lost everything that was stored on them. I don't ever want to take a chance that I have a collection of photos that exists only on my phone. So you can have your photos backed up automatically. iCloud, if you have an Apple phone, will do that for you automatically. On Android, also on Apple products, you can install Microsoft OneDrive. Then you have access to all your OneDrive files, which is nice, but it has an option where it will make sure that all of your photos are backed up into OneDrive. So this is a great option, and I can't imagine doing without it. About once a month, I go into OneDrive and I collect all the photos that have been backed up from my phone into OneDrive, and I also copy them onto my computer so that they get backed up with my regular computer backup as well. So they actually, remember we said everything should exist in multiple places. So not only do I not want them only on my phone, I don't want them only on my phone and in OneDrive. I want them on my computer and backed up onto my backups as well. So some final thoughts. This is the question I usually get asked. What do I do for my personal backups? So here's my procedure. Every Sunday, I have 3 external hard drives that I use for backups. And every Sunday, one of the things I do is I sit down at my computer. I use a synchronization program called Good Sync. If I had it to do all over again, I'd probably use Free File Sync, but I started using Good Sync before I found out about Free File Sync. And so I take one of those hard drives and I back everything, all my files, using Good Sync up to an external hard drive. And I use versioning. So again, it has a copy of the files. If I make changes to files, it has copies of the files before I changed it. Every Monday, I take one of those, I take last week's backup to work. And that's where I get the offsite thing. So if my house burns to the ground, I've got a hard drive that's always at work, a different hard drive. I rotate through them. I've got a hard drive at work that has a copy of all my files. So every Sunday, I back up to the next hard drive in the sequence, and then I take last week's backup to work. All my important files and my active files are also in OneDrive, and that's how I get the 2 different media. So I've got them not only backed up to these external hard drives, but I've got a copy in OneDrive. And so it actually exists, all of my files exist on my computer, in OneDrive, and on the external hard drives. So 3 different places, and that's about 5 different copies of most files. And then about every 6 months, I use Macrium Reflect to back up my entire computer. That takes a lot of disk space on the external hard drives, so I don't do it very often. And here's what my external hard drives look like. I bought 3 of them, as I said. They're the Western Digital Elements hard drives that I really like. I put them in a case that looks like this, and there's a number on the front of each case, 1, 2, or 3. That's how I keep track of them. And if you look inside, there's the hard drive all protected and nice and snug. And they have labels on them that says backup 1, backup 2, or backup 3. My name and phone number are on them. So if I lose one and somebody finds it, they know how to get it back to me. They're all 4 terabyte Western Digital Elements hard drives. And I paid, right now, they're $95 on Amazon as of last month. I didn't pay quite that much for them. And I have this little piece of paper. And every week when I do my hard drive, when I do my backup, I fill this out. And this is just a Word document that I made. So it has the date I made the backup, and then it tells me which hard drive I'm supposed to back up onto. So if I look at the last entry here, which was March 26th, I took this photo obviously months and months ago. I didn't quit doing backups in March. So if I look at this, when I did the March 26th backup, I was supposed to back up onto hard drive number 3. I was then supposed to take hard drive number 2 to work and put it in my desk drawer. And then hard drive number 1 should be at work, and I was supposed to bring that home on Monday. So I know exactly where my last backup is, and I know which one's supposed to be at work, and I can look at the previous line and see that I did that backup on March 19th. And so just a little bit of organization can really help you keep track of what you've done. Now, I've got a whole presentation on this if you're ever interested in it, but one of the things that people often ask about is, well, don't you worry about somebody going into your desk drawer, fishing out your hard drive, and they have access to all your data because it's on that external hard drive. Well, I don't worry about that because I use a program called VeraCrypt to make sure that all the data on that hard drive is encrypted, and without the password, nobody can get to it. So all of my backup hard drives are fully encrypted. And again, the software I use is VeraCrypt. And here's an important point. If you do this, be sure you have that password stored someplace other than your computer, because the last thing you want to find is that your computer has just burned up and now you want to go back to your hard drive, to your backup, but your backup is encrypted and the password was stored on your computer, which is now gone. So what I do was I wrote the password down and I gave it to my parents. I gave a copy to my sister and I gave a copy to my boss. And so if I ever need to, I can go to them and say, what was the backup password again? And so make sure I don't lose the password. On my phone, I use OneDrive to make sure that all the photos are always backed up to OneDrive. And thankfully, I've lost some phones, but I've never lost the photos that were on them. So where do you get all this wonderful software? Well, there's the websites for all of the software that I've talked about in this presentation. So the most important advice I would give you about backups, whether you follow the techniques I've shown you here or talked about, and if anybody wants details on any of these techniques, I know we went through a lot really fast. Just contact me. I'll be glad to answer any questions you've got on it. The most important thing is just do it. Just make sure you're making backups. Make sure you schedule it. Make sure it becomes a habit. Make sure it becomes part of your routine. There's no worse feeling when it comes to computers than realizing that you just wiped out all the data on your hard drive, or you've gotten hit with malware and now all of your data is encrypted and you can't get to it and you have no backup. So just make the backups. Try to follow the rules I've given you, but just do something. So there's my name again and my email address. Feel free to contact me. Be glad to answer any questions you've got at any time. And I'd be glad to answer any questions you've got right now, if you'd like. And thanks very much.
Thank you, Mark. If you share so we can see everybody, see if there's some questions. There we go. We have one hand up already. Steve?
Yeah, have you tried using file history in Microsoft?
I haven't actually. And part of the reason for that is that takes up space on my hard drive. I'd rather it take up space on my backup drive. And so I'm meticulous about using versioning on my backups, but I don't actually use it on the computer itself. The exception to that, I did mention that I have all of my really important files in OneDrive, and OneDrive does versioning automatically. All of those online storage places will do versioning. So there's versions of all of my Word documents, all my spreadsheets, those get versioned just by virtue of the fact that they're in OneDrive.
Okay. Well, I found that the file history that's in Windows 10 actually does work as well, if not better, than the programs that you had listed on there. I tried those, and I tried the file history in Microsoft, and it actually worked really well. I was quite surprised that Microsoft finally got something right for once.
Well, you know that. Listen, I'm all for it. Actually, if it's gotten better, I'll have to take a look at it.
Hey, Carl, you were next.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, does any of the software do automatic, or where you could set it on a time, you know, like when you're not using the computer or something, 2 in the morning or something automatically?
Yeah, they all do. So Free File Sync will do that. Good Sync will do it. So you can schedule backups. The only thing you have to be careful of is if you're rotating through backups like I do, then before it does the next backup, you want to be sure you put the next hard drive on. But I kind of like doing it manually myself, just because it gives me a chance to look at what's changed and review the list of what's changed before it actually does the backup. But yeah, absolutely. If you would rather do it automatically, they'll all do it.
Just one more question. You were going to back up something that required a password. What happens if would that work automatically, even though you require a password?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, so let me differentiate. So I pulled up a Word document there that had a password on it. That'll get backed up, no problem. Or were you referring to the fact that I encrypt the whole hard drive with VeraCrypt?
No, but now that you mentioned VeraCrypt, is that a fee for that, I assume?
No, that's free.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And it was in the list. And again, I'll make sure that Bill and Jim have got copies of the slides. Believe it or not, it's a French company. So the website is veracrypt.fr for France. But if you just search for Veracrypt, you'll find it. And it's open source and free.
Thank you.
Sure.
Tim?
Got a couple items regarding Steve's comments on Microsoft's file history. Ask Leo has a couple articles I've come across. I have not set it up yet. You can go to external drives like a spinning or SSD drive or a flash drive, etc., to do the backing up on. It does work a lot like the sync programs as well. It's just built into Windows.
Okay.
The second thing that I want to bring up, I use Macrom Reflect. I've used it for a lot of years myself. Two things you have to do is when you bring it up, go to the menu up to the top right side. It says Other. The first two items are the two ones that you have to play with. One is you create a rescue flash drive, and a lot of other backup software does the same thing.
Yep.
Macrom Reflect, it only takes between 512 megabytes to 1 gigabyte drive. And I have some old ones that are sitting around doing nothing. That's what I use. Using a bigger flash drive as an example, a lot of times we have data saved on them for one reason or another. When you're using the flash drive in particular, it's going to wipe out anything that's on that drive. So you must examine what's out there, back it up first somewhere else. Then when you create the rescue media, it will wipe it out. It will put on the necessary software so you can restore your backups. If the whole hard drive completely dies and you replace the hard drive, now how do you get the data off your backup back onto your new hard drive in your system? Any extra space, you can put files on there, but every once in a while, like at least once a year, you want to create a new rescue media. The second one is labeled Edit Defaults and Settings. And in there, on a Macrom Reflect, I go down to Auto Verify Image, and I put a check mark in. Every time I run a backup, it automatically will verify that the backup is good, and I've never had one of my backups fail, ever. No matter how many I've made, how far back they were made, I can go back to them. I know they're good, and I don't get any messages saying, hey, something went wrong. The file's corrupt, or the file is missing. It's there.
Yeah. Yeah. I love Macrium. And the nice thing, so good advice about the rescue flash drive, because you do have to have one. Fortunately, as long as Macrium is still in business, you can always go to their website and download one. So, I could go over to my sister's house, get on her computer, go to Macrium's website, download the rescue disk, and I'm good to go. So, but it is a good idea to have one. You never know when a tech company might go out of business.
Joel, you're next.
Thank you. First, thank you for your presentation, and Huey, I look forward to getting at least his last slide with all the references. I want to confirm that I understood having multiple external, like the Western Digital drives. Is there a problem when they get out of sync between their various copies? Like if I update a file 4 times in a week, what versions am I going to have on each of the Western Digital externals? And since the Western Digital is unplugged for 7 days or possibly 3 or 4 weeks, does it resynchronize itself and find itself because it's different from the one that's in your office drawer? Do I have to be concerned because the Western Digital is unplugged to maintain its life for several days or several weeks at a time?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So if I change a document, let's say today, so it's Wednesday, I change a document. So when I plug hard drive number 1 in this Sunday, it's going to realize that it changed and it's going to back it up onto the hard drive. The following Sunday, when I plug hard drive number 2 in, it's going to realize that it's got an older copy of it, and it'll back it up again to hard drive number 2. And then the week after that, I put hard drive number 3 in, it's going to get backed up again because it's going to realize that hard drive number 3 has an older copy. And then the week after that, when I put hard drive number 1 back in, it's going to say, okay, I'm good on that file.
Yeah, and Mark, one thing you mentioned was that you're also backing up to an online cloud service, or I think you're using OneDrive. So if the file gets changed on Wednesday, you still have the updated version somewhere so you can go get it. Because if your system crashes, obviously your backup isn't going to have the most recent, but your OneDrive would have it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And by the way, that's why I feel comfortable doing the backup to external hard drive just once a week, because I know OneDrive's going to be there to bail me out if I, make a mistake during the week.
Yeah, and if worse comes to worse, you're only going to lose a week's work, which would be better than losing everything.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Thank you.
Marshall.
Yes, would you have the gentleman put his name and the contact information in the
Chat.
chat? Yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
thank you.
Okay. Bill Crow.
Great presentation, thank you. I don't know if you mentioned it or not. It's not recommended, I don't think, that you leave your backup drive plugged into your computer.
Correct.
Oh, that's an excellent point. And I, you know what? I need to add that. You're right. Yes, let me second that, because the big reason for that is if you get a virus, you don't want that virus to be able to destroy your backup because it's still plugged into the computer. So,
Or if they encrypt your data, they'll encrypt that drive as well.
exactly so.
Yeah.
So when the hard drive is sitting on my shelf on the other side of the house, then if I get a virus, that virus is not going to get to my backups. So that's a really good point. Don't leave the backups plugged in when you're done with the backup.
Yeah, and if somebody steals your computer, if it's connected, it's going with them.
You're right, exactly so.
Steve Parker, you're next.
Yeah, the Macream Reflect has a background service running. I think it's called Watcher or something like that. Does it need to be on all the time, or can you turn it off and then have it come on when it needs to be there?
You can turn it off. That's for scheduled backups and things like that. You do not need it for what you're doing.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Sure, Richard, go ahead.
How do you do that hand on the picture? Because I don't know how to do that. It's a simple question, but I don't.
Huey, you want to tackle that?
I didn't understand what he was asking.
He wants to know how to raise your hand in Zoom.
Oh, are you on a PC, Richard?
No, on an iMac.
I don't, I think you still go to the menu and it's going to be down at the bottom. It's going to be under reactions.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. I see the reactions. Okay. Good. Thank you.
We saw the reaction too.
Oh, did you?
Mark, thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over to Jim now. But I thought you really tackled a very complex topic Very well and very organized. Thank you.
Thanks, Huey. I appreciate it.
It was great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark. It was, when we do these on Zoom, sometimes we have a most excellent speaker, but the Zoom technology or fuzziness or interference with the audio, but you came through so super clear and you made your presentation very clear. Even I could understand it. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. We'd love to have you come back. And thank you, Bill, for scheduling him. It was terrific. Okay, it's time for a free 1-year membership with STUG, which would be added on to your current membership. So when your current membership is up, from that point, you will get a free year, and you have to be a member of STUG today to get the renewal, because it's not a new membership, it's a renewal for a year. And you have to still be on the Zoom call today. So I hope you didn't cut out early. Is everybody ready? You don't have to raise your hand figuratively or otherwise. Here we go. And the winner is Wilma Holly. Wilma, are you online? Can you respond, please?
I am online. I'm here.
Okay, Wilma, congratulations. You're going to get a year's extension to your membership at STUG, and I appreciate that. Thank you for hanging in there and being there. Thank you for being a member.
Thank you. Excellent
And-
presentation, Mark.
Thanks, Wilma.
Yes, thank you again, Mark. Huey or Bill or any other board member have any other announcements or comments? Marshall, anything? If not, we will wind it up, and I thank you very much for coming. See
Bill,
you
any
later.
idea next month?
I think it's going to be Huey Poplock, but I'm not sure.
He doesn't know that, so we'll have to talk about it.
I think Huey's price is going to just about jump up.
I think it got more expensive.
Okay, happy Turkey Day, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much. Take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.